John McBride, the movie guy, is here this morning. Talk about what's new at the box office, and we were just joking about, would it be a weekend worth going to the theater? And she mentioned Creed, and I said, well, I don't know, let's wait.
Yeah.
And see if it really is worth going to
I
the
think
theater.
it's interesting. We have 3 films this week. We have one that's pretty good. That would be Creed 3. And we have one that's good. And we have one that's pretty bad. So,
Wow.
so certainly
Something for everyone.
Exactly. If you're going to the theater, Creed 3 is certainly the one to see.
Okay.
So let's set the stage. I mean, this is the third of this particular piece of the franchise, because it all stems from the original Rocky.
Okay.
If you remember the movie, Rocky fought Apollo Creed.
Yes.
So this is Apollo Creed's
Son, Adonis, or
Right.
Donnie Creed.
And so now we've
okay.
moved on to the next phase
Sure.
of the Rocky story.
the 9th, if you're counting, putting them
Wow,
all
really?
together. So the
Jeez.
9th Rocky film, I would argue that there's probably only 5 of them that are really worth seeing. But
Yeah.
and interesting, kind of like Rocky 3, which is where we see Mr. T show up. I think Creed 3 is really interesting because of the villain that shows up in this. So the story is, Creed is actually retired here, and he's living the good life at home in Los Angeles with his wife, who's played by Tessa Thompson. He's got a daughter. She's deaf. I really kind of like the interplay between the father and his daughter. He has to speak to her in American Sign Language. And he has an old friend who's played by Jonathan Majors of Ant-Man fame from 2 weeks ago. And he shows up. They were childhood friends, but Majors' character has been in prison for the last 20 years. He comes out and he kind of says, hey, I need you to help me get my boxing career going again. Well, I mean, it's not really a spoiler to say that he has ulterior motives here. Anyway, he does. Major's character kind of takes over, causes problems, certainly for one of Creed's boxers that he is training. So it's up to this our hero, to come out of retirement, get in the ring with him, but not before we get the montage, because it's a Rocky film.
Right.
You have to have a montage. I must admit, I miss the Gonna Fly Now music. I still think they should put that in every Rocky movie. But look, you get this silly montage where this time he's in Los Angeles instead of Philly. He actually pulls, he's pulling an airplane down the runway. Because I think every time they do these montages, I think, what's the most outlandish thing we can come up with?
That's one of them.
Let's pull an airplane around. So
That's a good one.
But anyway, it comes out. Look, this is Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut. And I'm always a little concerned about that because I think a lot of times actors go, well, I've mastered acting.
Sure.
I need a new challenge. I'm not sure he's mastered acting. I think he's fine. He's very charismatic, but I don't think he's a great actor. He certainly pales in comparison to Jonathan Major, who's a much better actor and is really, I think, the reason to see this film. But that being said, he doesn't do a bad job directing this, Michael B. Jordan. I just don't think he does a whole lot that's special, although I did like some of the close-ups of like when they're in the fighting, you see the close-up slow motion shots of body blows, and you see the muscle rippling, and you see the sweat, flying off the body. I thought those were pretty cool shots. But for the most part, you're here for this movie, believe it or not, for the acting. Jonathan Majors, very good. Nice, nuanced character performance. Tessa Thompson, very good. And then that relationship between Creed and his daughter, I think was adorable. She is a little girl who, quite frankly, loves her daddy. She's definitely her daddy's girl, and she punches a kid in the beginning of this, and it's like, oh, maybe she's the future face of the franchise. So.
Oh, okay.
So look, I think Creed 1 is the best film. I think this is the second best. Creed 2 was whatever, but I think this is better than Creed 2. You're there for the acting. It is a franchise, so it's kind of on rails.
But it also has a built-in audience.
Oh,
I mean, there are people that are coming. It's a Creed movie.
Yeah.
They're going back. This is a boxing movie. There's a draw. This is a movie with a lot of well-cut men without shirts on. That's a draw.
Jonathan Major spends the first half of this movie in a bulky sweatshirt. And we've seen the trailer, so we know what's underneath that sweatshirt. And it's like they're trying to hide it. And then he shows up in the ring and takes off that shirt, and you go, oh, I realize that this is a franchise and Adonis Creed is our hero, but I'm not sure I believe that any man can beat this character.
Yeah,
sure.
He is so jacked, it's really quite impressive.
Well, we saw that in some of the original, Rocky movies as well.
Against
right?
Drago. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So let's move from what you consider to be maybe the best
The best
movie of the week
yep. Mm-hmm.
to what would be the worst movie of the
We
week.
covered this very quickly. Children of the Corn.
I knew it was going to be that one. Just
Now,
by
this
the
is
name.
like
Just by the name. I
original
knew it.
Children of the Corn?
It's a
or
remake of it, obviously.
Really?
So, you know, last year we had a remake of a Stephen King film called Firestarter, and I didn't hate that movie, but it got Razzie Awards. This one is nowhere near as good as Firestarter. So this is a remake of this story of a bunch of children living in the Nebraska area, and there's this evil deity that lives in the cornfields, and he requires blood sacrifice, so they have to, you know, kill all the adults. And, you know, look, that first movie from the 1980s was notable for some creepy images. Kids can be creepy, you know, so they're remaking it. I'm not sure that the story merits a remake, but the big thing here is that if you're going to make a remake, you have to do something interesting, and they're not. There is nothing here other than a by-the-numbers horror slasher flick. Not a fan of this. They didn't screen it for critics. I went and paid my good money to go buy a ticket to this last night. So I did that for you. I took the bullet for y'all. This is not a good movie.
Thank you for your service,
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
Yeah, we do
Thank you for
appreciate
standing
it. So that way we can save our money.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Right.
not a good movie. And then the one in the middle,
Yeah.
which is kind of a surprise. It's called Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre. And this is a Guy Ritchie movie. And, you know, I say this is like a second-tier James Bond flick. And I don't think that's an insult. I mean, I think people like James Bond spy thrillers. It's, you know, it's Jason Statham playing, you know, this super agent with a taste for the finer things in life. And, you know, it's one of those complicated stories where there's this weird thing that all these black market people are bidding on, and so the British government wants to get their hands on it. They don't know what it is, but they just know if the bad guys want it, they want it worse. So they bring in their super secret spy. He assembles a team of agents, and they're going after it. It's Hugh Grant who's playing this billionaire the bad guy. And and Hugh Grant's character is really starstruck, so they get this Hollywood actor to come in to try and, you know, not sexually, but seduce him, you know. And so you have Josh Hartnett, you have Hugh Grant, you have Aubrey Plaza, you have a really good cast. And look, Statham is very good at the fisticuffs. Guy Ritchie is very good at the action stuff. I think Aubrey Plaza and Hugh Grant just lean into the juiciness of these weird characters. They enliven every scene they're in. I thought this was a fun, you know, spy caper. If you're a fan of that genre, I think you certainly should check it out. This is a film that should have been released several years ago. It's been on a shelf for a while. You can tell because they're like Ukrainian gangsters that, you know, why they probably would have changed their nationality now. But
it's interesting because as soon as I see this, why do I think streaming? I'm like, oh, this must be a Netflix movie because that's what it looks
it
like.
certainly feels
It
like it.
does.
I'm sure they just paid so much money to bring it in theaters in the pandemic, and they've been sitting on it for a while. But it's in theaters this week. All three of these are in theaters this week. So, you know, check them out. I think, you know, if you're a fan of the action, you're going for the Creed 3s.
Yeah, I think that
but
would
this
be
one's worth seeing as well.
Okay, sounds good.
And
But
don't make the mistake of going into Children of the Corn.
stay out of the cornfield.
Understood. I've been to the
Gotcha.
cornfields.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
There
I'm
you
good
go.
there.
All right, 8:39, Sean McBride, the movie guy, joins us every Friday to talk about what's new in entertainment as we head into the weekend.